From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. And today is the return. It's been out for a little bit, or off the docket a little bit here, but I'm back ready to do our series, Blank is Why We Love Star Wars. For those that don't know, I wrote a book a few years ago called Why We Love Star Wars. The, book that's 100 of my favorite scenes, moments, and things in Star Wars that I love. So we're taking that here to the ForceCenter audience and finding people out in our community who love Star Wars and the reasons why they love Star Wars and sometimes the specific things they love Star Wars. As always, we want to remind you that our shows are brought to you by our own merch shop right now, which seems, I don't know, morally complicated, but it's we just want to get the word out. We have a new merch shop at Fourth Wall. You can find the links down below here on YouTube if you're watching. If you're listening, just follow those links on our socials and on YouTube, and you can get new merch. I finally uploaded some new merch: water bottles, drinks, pint glasses for drinks, coasters for drinks. I guess we're encouraging you to drink water or any other liquid of your choice. All right, without further ado or delay, I'm excited to bring in our guest today, making, I do believe, his debut on ForceCenter. Nick Ghanbarian is here. You might know him as a bass player for Bayside. You might know him as like 1/4. I think it's up to fourths of the wonderful Thank the Maker podcast, of which I was very blessed to be on a few years ago. Please welcome to the show, Nick. How are you doing, buddy?
Real good. We'll have to have you back on Thank the Maker sometime soon.
I'd love to.
It'd be great.
I'd love to talk about anything.
Yeah,
anything.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to be here. Good to see. I think you and I always run into each other at cons, convention floors, and the areas around it. So
yeah. Were you in Japan? Did we run into each other quick in Japan?
I did not.
Where did I see you? I
couldn't.
saw you recently somewhere.
At events. Well, where were we? Yes,
it was something.
There was probably something with Alex Backus or Steve Ellis or both. From Black Series.
I feel like it was pretty recent,
and then I think the last time I passed you. And I was trying to say hi. It was like a convention floor. So maybe it was London. But It was one of those moments where I was like, if I jump in, all the people talking to him now will have to be pushed aside, and I don't want to be rude. So it's been a bit. We're going to dive into our topic in a bit. Today's topic is community is why we love Star Wars. We here at ForceCenter believe that community is a big core tenet of the Star Wars story, but it's also, especially for podcasters, as those that listen to podcasts and those that attend conventions, it's a key part of celebrating it. But first thing out, you've been working very hard. Your band Bayside celebrating their 25th year, going strong. It's a crazy number for a punk band. How are you all handling that? And you got a big tour you're in the middle of a big tour.
I mean, it's kind of, we broke it up a bunch into 4 different legs really this year because a normal year for us is about 25 headlining shows, maybe some festivals. So you're looking at like 25 to 35 shows a year. And I think this year we're doing close to 60 because it's our anniversary year. So we broke it up into a UK leg and then 3 North American legs. So it's good. We gave ourselves enough time to have off. I mean, half of the band has kids. They live in Tennessee. Me and my drummer, he lives about a mile away from me out here in Orange County. So I think home life and family life and just being a little bit older, we can't go out there for 8 weeks like we used to, like it's not only physically grueling, but mentally grueling to do that. So we spaced it out over the course of the year to keep ourselves sane and make sure our bodies don't fall apart also. So it's great.
I love sensible rock stars, which is what we've learned, right? It's not the 60s, 70s, go to you burnout. You're like, we're going to have a banana between shows and we're going to relax.
Yeah, it's very true. It's how much water could I drink? Make sure I eat a banana. I mean, I've played music since I was 14. I've been touring since I was 17. I'll be 45 in a couple of weeks. Like the amount of changes in the music industry is like astronomical, and like everything we have to do besides just write and play music is, I mean, it's a list, like you have to be half businessman, you have to, constantly, now you have to be a social media manager, like I'm sure there's plenty of bands out there who have they pay their own social media people to do a bunch of stuff. It's like we do that. Basically, we hire our buddy Shane to come out on the road with us, but we're filming with him all the time, or doing photos or whatever. So we're pretty much, we're very hands-on band because we have to be. But it's a lot. The list of things we do other than play music is it's long.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times. Unfortunately, this wonderful digital world we've created for ourselves, which is great, and you get to connect with the community we talk about. But yeah, it's like you can no longer just be an author, right? You have to do all the things you just talked about. You have to have your brand as an author online, which is frustrating.
And then constantly figuring out an ever-changing algorithm, that is somehow unusable. I don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But part of what you've done so well as just a band and you yourself is combining your love of music, your love of community, again, which we'll talk about here, but also what you do in the Star Wars world with Thank the Maker. You have the Mosh Eisley parties, emo pop dance parties. How do you describe it best?
Legally, we just call it the best party in the galaxy because we don't want anyone to get in trouble. But that all, the Thank the Maker hosts, it was Ryan from Yellow Card, Adam from Story of the Year. I play in Bayside, and now we have our buddy Mike, who's another host. We all obviously come from like an emo and pop punk world, which was like kind of our like foot in the door when it came to Star Wars podcasting, because when it started we were just like, all right, are we just going to be another Star Wars podcast? Like, we don't want to be just another one. What's our take on it? So I think we leaned early on into having other band members on and musicians and stuff like that. And then like a lot of things in life, like the audience dictates what you become in a certain way. And it just seemed more about our podcast was just a Star Wars podcast. Like we tried to have this music element to it early on. And like I said, had, Ashi from Beartooth on, or John Feldman from Goldfinger, or Mike Herrera from MXPX. We had, and we thought that was going to be endless, but our audience wanted to get nerdier and just be more of a Star Wars, and like it is still that, but we could go off on an emo band tangent or something, or use our background in being in a band or creating songs and show the parallel to creating Star Wars or a process or something. So there's an element, like a niche element there. And that turned into when Star Wars Celebration was in Anaheim in 2021, I think it was. The podcast, 21, 22. The podcasts were doing well enough that we all worked on, and I was like, I think we could do an emo night, which is like this phenomenon in our genre of people just go to what is basically a club night, but it's emo music. It's not dance music or anything. It's the popular songs from our genre. And I was like, I think we could probably sell a couple hundred tickets and just have a party. And it was a one-time thing. We had a fun name for it, Mosh Eisley. We showed up to legendary Chain Reaction here in Anaheim. I think it was a Friday or Saturday night. And I mean, and it was sold out in advance. We sold it out in like 10 days, and we're like, oh, okay. I thought maybe 300 people would show up, but we sold like almost 500 tickets in 10 days. And it was like, okay, I think we have to take this a little bit more seriously than we thought. So we did. And then again, the audience kind of dictated to us what Mosh Eisley was. And they showed up in like punk and emo inspired Star Wars outfits. And we were like, oh, people really like this idea. And from that point on, we've like taken every event that we do, because we've done at least 10 of them at this point, and just made it more fun, just planned it a little bit better, marketing, all this stuff. And we plan on doing a lot more. It's still, it's something. We have the one coming up in San Diego on July 25th, which is a Friday. That's kind of like our flagship one, is San Diego Comic-Con. We've sold it out every year. It'll sell out this year. It's great. It's a lot of fun, and it gives people, like, cosplaying obviously is such a big part of Star Wars in the community, and it gives cosplayers something else to wear their costumes to, but also like another niche genre to create a costume for. You could just show up as Anakin Skywalker, but could you show up as an emo Anakin Skywalker? Like, that's what people wind up doing, which is kind of fun.
Which it's Anakin is perfect for emo
Yeah,
version.
exactly.
Like Attack the Clones Anakin is probably part of the emo world from the
Yeah,
early 2000s.
absolutely.
Yeah, your shows, the parties are great. Anything that gets Alex Damon in eyeliner is a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah, he understood the assignment right away. He showed up to the first one, him and Molly, and he was in eyeliner screaming Motion City soundtrack songs. It was great.
Absolutely. Shout out to Tony Thaxton, who still, most of our, I think all of our theme songs are Tony Thaxton compositions. I want to get into the talk about community here, Nick, because it's important to everything we do as podcasters. It's important to us as fans. It's important to Star Wars. But this is something that's close to your heart as a Star Wars fan. Take me through your journey and what community means to you in Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, thankful for it all starts, kind of comes back to the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm and getting consistent Star Wars since 2014 at this point, 2015.
Yeah.
I grew up with it. Obviously, I'm of the age range where I have memories of playing with my toys and, thankfully, Return of the Jedi coming back into theaters in like 1985 gave me a memory of seeing Star Wars in the theater because I was too young to see it in theaters. But I do have a decent memory of that 1985 re-release. And all the sequels, all the prequels, I was, 19 to 24 years old. But I think with where my life was heading and becoming more of a touring musician and stuff like that, I was constantly on the road and didn't necessarily find the outlet to be the massive Star Wars nerd that I was. I didn't find the community back there. And obviously it existed, but it's, I don't want to say pre-internet, but pre-social media for sure. So I never found my niche, like my outlet or found any other people to kind of commiserate with my Star Wars nerdiness. But like I said, thankfully Disney, kind of gave us consistent Star Wars for a bit, and podcasting became a thing. And through that, I really, was able to kind of get inserted into a fan base that is kind of now comfortably nerdy and confident, in being nerds. And obviously, like, fandom is just an industry in itself. So in our world, if something's financially viable, it just gives, it makes it last longer. So right now, being a nerd could make you money, right? So, so it's it kind of getting. I started to, when I still lived in New York and Force Awakens was out, started to really get into just like going to get coffee with my friends and talking about theories of who Rey was and blah, 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 who was Snoke, whatever, And then a couple of years later, I moved out to California and just joined up with the Thank the Maker dudes pretty early on in there. I think I want to say like 5th or 6th episode, I was a guest on the show because Ryan and Adam had started it. And they immediately were like, "Hey, that was awesome. Do you want to just host with us?" So I just said, "Yeah."
Come on board.
Yeah. I was like, "Sure, no problem." So from that point on, it was about building community. Like the community was there for us to be like a part of the Star Wars community, but then we were like tasked ourselves into being like, what's the Thank the Maker community? And we worked with other podcasts. And like I said, had that Mosh Isley event and would go to conventions and meet people and all this stuff. So it's been kind of this ongoing thing of finding not only Star Wars fans, but whether it's people to work with like Roosevelt or, I've met you and Alex and Molly and, the Resistance broadcast folks, like all those people, all are in like this like orbit of Star Wars and bands and stuff like that. So, Alex Backus, like you mentioned, Stephen Ellis. So it kind of just became this thing that for me, I was like, there's so many people who fit in this orbit and it's a beautiful thing. And I just want to like shepherd it, like I want to be a part of it because I think that we're in a world and that is constantly becoming like little bubbles and little niche things. And it's like those people, like, it feels good to be seen, you know, it feels good to be able to like talk
Yeah.
Star Wars and make an emo reference, you know, and people get it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I've met so many people in the last decade, which is like ultimately what we're talking about. It's community, you know, like the amount of people, like as someone in there this point, I was in my mid to late 30s, and I'm in my mid 40s now. The amount of friends I've made as an adult, like people don't get that opportunity really, you know. So that's been definitely a blessing.
Yeah, I love hearing all this, and going back to the beginning of the journey. And I think this is true for any generation, any age group. You often do feel alone. You often do feel disconnected. Sometimes that can be negative. Sometimes it's just you think you're the only one who likes a specific character or movie, and then you find other people, and that's part of the community. But what you're talking about back in the day, it was harder. Not only with just technology, but it was harder to find people to connect with, because sometimes even just the idea of saying I love Star Wars was going to get a certain reaction that in school might have been dangerous for you. If you're I always joke with Jennifer Landa here at ForceCenter, like, I wish I knew girls like Jennifer Landa existed, because I was told they didn't growing up. But she was taught that what you love in Star Wars isn't the right thing to do. And so from that, it seems like what you felt in 2015, and I'm so glad you brought up that era, as controversial as the Disney era is. That's really what it did. It brought all of that out in all of us. What you're having a coffee to talk about Star Wars, that just didn't exist for a long time. And you're talking about it's powerful to connect. Take me to that moment when you're sipping coffee. You're in a successful band that's been going for a bit, which is kind of its own cool kind of community. But this is something you get to now be that. And this, which maybe, I don't know, like maybe you grew up a band nerd, you started playing young, and you grow to be the cool man you are. I don't know. But like, you probably thought you couldn't even talk about Star Wars for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, but there was just this is the beauty of internet and social media. It's obviously easier to meet people from all over the world, really. But if you're just in the 80s growing up, and Star Wars is done in 1983, by the time I am of age to start meeting more people at school or whatever, it's like Star Wars is done. Why would you talk about Star Wars? You know, it's like I'm not playing with toys anymore. I'm 12, 13, 14, whatever it is. Star Wars isn't even like, or the prequels aren't even like announced or anything yet. So it's like rumor. Kind of, you know, the expanded universe, all those novels were a little bit older than I was, you know, as far as like reading wise. Like I remember being younger and seeing those novels and just being like, this looks like an adult novel. Like, I don't want to read it. It doesn't look fun, you know? So like, that was my interpretation of it, you know? So like, I didn't keep up with those, any of those Timothy Zahn novels. But I mean, it's just the beauty of the internet. It's the beauty of like just the human nature of wanting to like be a part of a community in a bubble. And I just think that from, you know, mid 80s to the late 90s, there wasn't, I know it existed because only in retrospect, I know it existed, like a Star Wars, you know, community. But it just never came across. It didn't come across like my plate at all. Like, so I'm glad that it did happen with the Disney years, basically.
Yeah, and the celebrations emerged, 99 on, and the rise, you know, San Diego Comic-Con, 70s it started, International San Diego Comic-Con in 72 or 3, whatever, doesn't matter. But, you know, the con culture has grown, and all that kind of stuff comes later. But yeah, you're right. It did exist in fan leathers, bantha tracks in the back of Star Wars Insider or something. But I had a couple friends around me, and that was the community. And there's other communities to join, I'm sure, other things to like. But you know, after a while, we're told you have to put those things aside anyways. Yeah. That was part of the culture too. Grow up, put aside your lightsabers. Now look at you. I mean, you know, I'm teasing you. I've been around you. You're a very cool dude, and don't deny it. You're a cool dude. Thank you. But like, to see you dress up, to see you nerd out, that's inspiring, man. I think that's inspiring. That's a key part of it. What did you first ever put on an outfit? Yeah, go ahead.
like I would say proper Star Wars cosplay wasn't until me and the Thank the Maker group went on the first Star Cruiser, whatever year that was, 21,
Oh
22,
yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah.
That was the first time I wore like Mandalorian armor. And honestly, I almost immediately was like, I appreciate this, but this is not for me. Because for me to be wearing all of that, and it felt all very I don't know what the right word is, like just very precarious. I'm like, this feels like it is going to fall apart if I take 5 more steps. And all of my friends were like, no, that's what cosplaying kind of feels like. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't think this is for me then. I thought I was going to wear something that was comfortable and I was going to feel cool in it. I feel sweaty and like this is going to fall apart. So I'm like, I can't stop thinking about that. I can't chill. So from that point on, I like backed off what I would cosplay as. And by the time we went on the second Star Cruiser, I kind of just put together my own comfortable in-universe like Jedi guy, like it wasn't a character that I had to have like a very pristine outfit or accurate anything. I was just like, I'm just wearing Jedi stuff. So it's fun. I mean, in that Star Cruiser sense, everyone was dressed up, and like that was the most that was the best feeling, because you're in an atmosphere of like, oh, I'm in Star Wars, even more so than Galaxy's Edge. Like Star Cruiser is like, I'm in Star Wars, and 85% of the people are dressed up. Like I'm walking into this bar and everyone is dressed like this is a dream. So it felt cool. And I appreciate the work that goes into cosplaying. I know it takes so much time, and it's also self-expression too. You get to a convention and you see, people worked hours and hours and hours on their maybe it's a mashup idea or their interpretation or something, and it's really for them to be seen. So like when you're at a convention, I'm always like, hey, could I take a picture with you? Or hey, you look great. Especially like the more niche costume or a reference is, like I'm a big Futurama fan, which isn't like a huge thing. So if I see a Futurama is like a big entity, but not a lot. It's not represented a lot at cons, I would say. So that, when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out and there were not a million people, there was like a handful of people wearing like Rakakuni like things at San Diego Comic-Con like 2 years ago. It's like, that's so at this point, not that many people had seen that movie. And for you to come here is like, you want me to say hi to you, like you want me to say nice Rakakuni headwear, that sort of thing. So, I'll dress up a little bit for Mos Eisley, but that also, Mos Eisley is like a little performative for us. So I have to wear something I can move around in and jump around in and stuff like that. So that's usually dictates kind of what I wear too, is just something I could like sweat in and be comfortable in.
I so respect the cosplay world. I constantly would worry about, how do I get this off in a bathroom? So I don't know. I respect it. The practicality, we don't get to see Din Djarin and need to go to the refresher for a reason.
The overalls, like coveralls I wore on my last Star Cruiser outfit were just like a workwear coveralls. And those have a zipper. They almost have like a 2-way zipper. So you could at least zip up, so you could go to the bathroom instead of like zipping all the way down and taking it off. Women definitely have a harder time.
Zip up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are only complaining so far. You've said some wonderful things already about community and what it means to you. Finding friends, having coffee later in your life, right? I refuse to believe that you and I are old, even though we've been doing things in our lives for 25 plus years, but finding it late in life. And I found that too, is even though I grew up a nerd and was known as a Star Wars kid in my circle, and we got to celebrate it and talk about it a little bit in the early days of the schmoes. Now, it wasn't until 2014, 2015, where you felt that rush of sameness. And the first celebration I got to attend was in 2015 Anaheim. And I had been at other cons, and I've been there professionally. I've been there working them, but also got to have fun and kind of soak it up. But 2015 Anaheim, and yes, there's the Force Awakens trailer, and we're all kind of feeling energized. But beyond that, as a lifetime Star Wars fan, I was moved almost, I was emotional, maybe even to tears, by just the connected sense of joy and a focus on we're all here because we love this one thing, and it blew me away. As someone who has been on tour in front of a large amount of people who love either your music or the music you're playing or part of, your first celebrations. How did the community feel there? Was it different from anything else you felt? Was it just more of the powerful same?
It's
Walk me through your first Star Wars celebration.
it's similar. So my first one was Chicago 2019, and
Mm,
it's similar in a sense. If I'm going to compare it to anything in music, it's similar to being at a show of a band I like. Like the
right.
connection that if I'm playing a show and people are happy to be there and singing and they're having like a cathartic moment, or if they're dancing, it's a physical
Yeah.
thing. That's one kind of connection that I'm like the happiest to be in that
Mm,
position, because for my entire life, similar to how much I love Star Wars, I've loved music. And to this day, me being at a show of a band that I love and feeling something special, I'm so happy that people feel that way about my band, and like that's the
mm,
ultimate
mm.
like gift that
Yeah.
being in a band has given me. But being at Star Wars
Yeah.
Celebration and again seeing cosplays is one thing. I was collecting a lot more back then, so it was fun to like just shop and look for some stuff to fill holes in the
Mm,
collection. But the biggest takeaway for me was I was at the celebration or the Star Wars show stage at
yeah.
2019 in Chicago, watching
Yeah.
the panel, the Rise of Skywalker panel, where they debuted the trailer. And I remember
Mm,
just recording what I thought was the screen, and I wasn't really paying attention. And I inadvertently was recording a guy in front of me who was watching the trailer. And it's like one of my favorite videos ever, because to watch him be
mm,
excited, I was
yeah.
excited the whole time, to the point where like I wasn't even filming the screen anymore, so accidentally filming this guy, and to watch him react to everything, it was just like it's like kind of not too dissimilar from YouTube videos of like reaction videos of people,
Yeah.
like watching the thing you just watched and how they react to it. But that sense of joy is palpable. Like I know you're open. Like
Yeah.
it's this thing where like
Yeah.
I've said it a bunch over the years of like you have to be, in order to even attempt to be a happy person, you have to be like open to a lot of different things, and like have
Mm,
your spirit, your consciousness, whatever it is, you have to be open to feeling things. And a lot of people aren't. And a lot of
mm,
people don't even know how to do that. And that's like a sad thing with like modern humanity, is that like you kind of
mm,
get it beaten out
mm.
of you at a young age. Like you have this
Right.
childlike wonder, and then the machine takes you. So it's like the older you could
Hmm.
get and still have any sense of like that wonder is a great thing. And I think that's what something that Star Wars, always has the opportunity to give people.
Mm,
But being in a
mm,
room full of people who are likely to be open to being happy is like the best feeling. Like if you've paid enough to go to a Star Wars convention, you're there because you love Star Wars. So you're kind of weeding out all of the trolls on the internet. There's not too many people there who hate Star Wars or claim they hate Star Wars. You're there with tens of thousands of people who love the same thing you love, and are there because they want to hear an announcement, see an actor, watch an interview, whatever. So you have this thing where it's like that's where almost like spirituality comes into it for me, because I'm just like I'm in a
hmm.
room with 10,000 people right now who are waiting to be happy, and you could feel that feeling, and that's the best part. So it's I didn't get
I.
to do in Japan. I went to the Ahsoka panel, was the only one, and it was kind of that
Mm,
same feeling. It's like that's
yeah.
such another like part of the fandom, is like the whole you know Clone Wars, Rebels, Ahsoka, that original like Filoni verse kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
so there's people who have loved Ahsoka since 2007, and now we're talking about a
Yeah.
second season of a live action Ahsoka movie. It's like there's people who are so invested
Yeah.
in that, who that character's changed their lives or whatever, and it's such a beautiful thing to see it move on into different iterations, and then also the excitement. Like I said, the excitement of being in a room with people. originally it was just movie theaters, but now you have conventions and stuff like that, where it's like, I just want to be in a room with people who we all like the same thing, and that energy a human body could give off where they're about to be happy, they are happy. Like the trailer is over and you just look around and you're like, I can't believe what we just watched, that sort of thing. Like, that's just ultimately like a feeling you chase, and that's why I wish there was a celebration every year. I wish there was more Star Wars. We've been, as much as we, I guess, maybe haven't realized it. I mean, it's been a solid 10 years of like kind of nonstop Star Wars. And now that it kind of has stopped for a year.
We're almost spoiled.
Now I'm just, no, wait, I want more. I don't want it to have a year off, or it's not really a year off, but it's
well, yeah. At the time of this recording of this episode, you and I, even off air, were talking about, we're in a period of time where Mandalorian Grogu's kind of the next big thing. Maybe Ahsoka season 2 we don't have a release date, and we got Visions and we got the Lego things, and I want to make sure there's books and comics that people love that are still coming out. But the big things, and that that's natural, and we grew up in the darker ages, anyways. But I think I'm so excited to feel. I have a love of Star Wars all the time, but I'm so excited to feel the things you're talking about, that collected sense of anticipation, joy, and happiness. Regardless of, what you're talking about too, it's like Chicago, regardless of what people end up thinking about the movies or the shows or the properties, that's almost a separate thing. You are talking about something that's spiritual. Yeah. I was blessed to go to the Rise of Skywalker panel in Chicago. Great time, rock star performance by Ian McDermott. The next day I'm roaming around the floor and they re-show the panel, the trailer again. And everyone kind of stopped and moved in, and I started to cry. Not like Scotty J. Rowe and his reaction to the Rise of Skywalker trailer. Shout out to Bombadcast. But I just started to cry, not because of what I was watching, even though I loved what I was watching. I started to cry because of what I was experiencing around me. Exactly what you're talking about, Nick. Filming a guy watching that. It was powerful. It was spiritual, and it's why I fight for community in Star Wars. It's why I fight for the right of that 5-year-old to dress as Rey. It's why I fight for that prequel kid to love Jar Jar. It's why I get sometimes downright grumpy when people try to take that from other people. Because what you're talking about also, this open to feelings, open to joy, it's we all have the cynicism bug in us if we let it. And there's a lot of things to make us cynical about the world and about the state of the world and even our fandoms and the franchises we love. But to fight against that and be open to another feeling, you're speaking some powerful stuff that we get to experience here, man. Yeah, and I think it is because you feel it on the music side too. It's really strong on the music side.
Yeah, there's a ballpark where those feelings all live in. It's like the thing you like, I guess, is the thing that changes, whether it's Star Wars and music or whatever. But I don't know. It's just, I think growing up with punk rock and finding my local music scene and all this stuff, I think humans crave community, and a lot of everything that's going on in the world right now is just some lack of community or the forming of a community that's not great. But at least people are part of it. I guess not at least, but people are at least are a part of it, I would say. Well, maybe even in a cult, but like
I have no problem going down that road a little bit, because I think that's also what is present. It is a lack of community that's going to drive some folks to maybe some dangerous spots if you're not careful. Yeah. I've talked often about the book by Luke Mogensen, the Storm is Here, which talks about anti-masks protests leading to the steps of the Capitol building on January 6th, and how he was a military journalist following things over in the Middle East and realized the community that he saw there and was embedded with, he saw those over there who had lost that, looking for community. Yeah. So that's a dangerous example of where it can go. But what you're talking about is why it's important to strive for including everyone and reaching out to folks and just making the community you're in to be the strongest thing.
It is, and it all comes from, and is something that I think we've talked about on the podcast a lot, and I've just realized in general, because of how social media is set up and negativity is the driver of views, on social media. Like, it's an unwinnable game, but it's still a game that has to be played. Like we have to be a force on Thank the Maker to be positive, and we very rarely talk. Yeah. If we don't like something, I think we could be honest about not liking it, but we're definitely not going to be negative about it. Like I think even in our own bubble of Thank the Maker, like host wise, I think the Acolyte was like a something that like, we had every end of the spectrum between all four of us. Like we all felt something different about that show, and we had good conversations about it, but it was, I think again, all like the Star Wars problem, if you want to call that, of like the negativity out there. It is amplified, even though the positive side could easily be amplified, but that's just not how social media works. But then it goes back to the community of like, hey, I feel that way also. I'm going to go over here and go into this echo chamber and start, speaking super negatively about Star Wars. And then people are going to be like, yeah, you're right. And it's like, you get that. And it's not just Star Wars; it's just the world right now. Like you can commiserate with other negative people, and you get a sense of community that way. And it's a scary thing. It's literal. I mean, we've been taught dark side, light side our whole life, and like you see protests and all this stuff, and you see so many people quoting Star Wars or quoting Andor specifically. It's like, yeah, we've been hearing this our whole life. If you've been born, 70s and 80s, it's like your 70s, 80s, 90s at this point. It's like you kind of through Star Wars have heard a lot about resistance and rebellion and empires and all this stuff. So it's hard not to see. And I mean, that's also the beauty of George. There's plenty of George Lucas clips out there about him talking about America and war and all this stuff. And it's, it's funny when you see either random person or potentially a bot just being like, since when is Star Wars political? It's like, yeah, I don't know. Right? Since when?
Since when? Since the beginning. Yeah. Lovely stuff. And we're almost done here, but you kind of transitioned into what you all do at Thank the Maker, and you said some stuff earlier that I really liked. You talked about individual expressionism within the larger sense of the community. I always call that kind of the shared unique journey, where it's like you think you're the only one who knew who Edge Antilles was because you were on an island as a kid. And that's your unique journey. And then all of a sudden you discover there's thousands of us, and it's that kind of fun. But in putting together, not your shows, your actual shows on Thank the Maker, but putting together your philosophies, which now that there's four of you, you're talking about different vibes and perspectives on specific shows or stories. But you all still put that philosophy out there, like you're talking about, the celebration, the community. What are some, I don't want to say lessons learned from it, but what are some of your favorite moments of being out and about at conventions or at shows or in your own life, and people coming up to you and going, I'm part of your community and thank you for it? Like, have you had those kind of moments where what you all put in that show is felt?
Yeah, the first time that it was felt, I mean, it's interesting because Thank the Maker started literally like January or February 2020. So you're talking, there was a couple of episodes before the pandemic.
A couple of normals.
Yeah. So, so then by the time we were out and about was the first time we were literally meeting some people like Mike Forrester, who's a host now. We met him for the first time, even though we've seen him, like I'm looking at you now, for a year or two at that point. We saw him at Celebration Anaheim. And it's like, dude, you're like, yes, you're a friend, but like oddly, you're like a business partner too. Same thing with like the Princess and Scoundrel folks, Sarah and Steven, Dano, who hasn't done a show in a minute, but he had a great YouTube show. But we all like work together as like this network, and we're internet friends. So the first time we like really got to hang out was Celebration Anaheim. And I remember more specifically, me, Adam, and Ryan walking around Star Wars Celebration early on the first day. And within the first hour, maybe 3 people came up to the 3 of us and were like, hey, I love the podcast. And we had a chuckle because anytime anyone had come up to us previous to that moment is, hey, I love your band. And the first time ever that this happened, hey, I love the podcast, and it was like, that's so interesting, like that's so cool. Yeah. And, it was only a handful of people, but that's definitely one of my favorite moments. And I think it's an ongoing like moment in general to see Thank the Maker shirt or Mosh Isley shirt at a Bayside show, you know? And it's like, that's the sense of like a community within a community, is like the people who pay attention enough. Like, so much of music, it's funny. Everyone listens to music differently. And even within a Bayside fandom, some people are just like, I'm here for the music, and I don't know the name of anyone in the band, or I only know 2 or 3 of these albums and they played some of those songs. I don't know what the rest of those songs were. You know, like every Bayside fan has their own agenda at a show. Sure. But for the people who are like, I joke about this all the time and it's self-deprecating, but I'm like, for the people who are paying attention to what the bass player of the band, like what shirt they're wearing or their podcast or whatever, I'm like, those are the people who, like, thankfully, those are the people I chat with. I'm like, if you notice that I always wear Star Wars shirts or wrestling shirts or whatever, and you want to talk to me about that, I'm going to talk to you. Thanks for looking at me.
Yeah. Thanks for looking at me. It's your people, man. It's your people. And it's why it's important. And you all do such a good job of fostering a good community. And it's not easy. It's not easy. No. Like I said, the path to cynicism is always right there. Yeah. It's always a step away.
It's hard to resist it, and I think the older I get, it's like I allow myself once in a while to be like, I'm just going to be a hater a little bit. I'm going to keep it to myself, or maybe I'll text my girlfriend and be like, you know what's bothering me today? If I could be a grumpy old man for 1 second, let me do it.
Yeah, yeah, but that's natural
for the most part.
Yeah. Nick, wonderful stuff, man. I think this is a great topic, and it's important to the things we do, but more importantly, the things we feel. And what I think I've picked up from you here today isn't just a lot of, fun places you get to do, or parties you get to put on, or songs you get to play on stage in front of folks who enjoy you do. You're talking about you're experiencing the same joys and feelings that they are. It is truly a community. So
it's important.
Topic, man.
It's tough being human. It's tough. It's tough being human for a lot of different reasons, but I think there's one thing that everyone misses is, like I said, is that wonder and that joy, which life experiences kind of just, like I said earlier, it just kind of gets like beat out of you at a certain point. So it's like any of that you can hang on to, that's great, but then you got to almost put in work the older you get to find that joy. And
you do.
Once you find it, it's great.
It is great, and you're doing a lot to make sure people find that joy even that much more easier. So appreciate having you on not only the show, but appreciate having you in the community, man. Yeah, it's always fun to, Orange County is another world for me up here in Burbank, but I love seeing you out and about when I do, because it is always about joy and celebrating this thing we love, man. So for those who are listening at the time of this episode's released, or around the time, Bayside's going back out on the road soon, part of this 25th anniversary tour. Where can they next find you?
The tour will be on the East Coast in September, starting in Orlando and going all the way up the coast, and ending with where it all began on Long Island. We have a show in Long Island, New York, where the band actually got together. So there's about 18 or 19 more shows in September, and tickets for that could be found at bayside.com. And then 2 weeks from, I guess, the time of this episode being out, Mosh Isley San Diego is July 25th. Right. And as of now, there's about 150 tickets left or something like that. So the closer we get, people start buying tickets more. So if you're interested in going, definitely suggest to get tickets sooner than later.
Do it, my friends. If you're out there, it will be a good time. When you're out in Long Island, what do you get? All-American, what's that, All-American burger?
I no longer eat meat. I haven't in about a decade, but yes, All-American burger is great.
Okay, there you go. That's what I hear. I haven't had it, Nick. I just hear anyone from Long Island just yells about me, but that's the place to get a little burger.
If I could describe to you an independent McDonald's, that's what an All-American burger is. It's better, but that's exactly what it is. It's an independent McDonald's.
There you go. There you go. That one's for you, my buddy Johnny M. in Long Island. I got to plug in for that. Nick, I appreciate you coming on. Links down below if you're watching on YouTube of where you can find Nick, Thank the Maker, and more. But cannot thank you enough, my friend, for coming by.
Thank you. Get you on Thank the Maker soon.
Let's do it. Thank you all for watching and listen. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Get that merch store at Fourth Wall. Also, the podcast, which is how we originated, is audio only. Sorry, you'll have to see my face now on YouTube. But the audio version is available wherever you find podcasts. Don't forget, on Sunday, we rebroadcast old episodes of Databank Brawl, exclusive to the podcast feed. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Also, follow me at Napzok or my website, Napzok.com, which does have links to buy copies of my book, Why We Love Star Wars. That's it. We'll see you all next time here on ForceCenter.